You seem hungry. Good thing your table is ready with Saturday Omaha.
Saturday Omaha.
Eat this.
It's Dave Zorko with Saturday Omaha. I usually say palatial. We're going to say historic KIOS studio because of the building that we're in here. But more importantly, I am sitting here with Tony Vacanti of La Casa Pizza, and I'm super excited about this. Tony, how you doing?
I'm doing great. I appreciate you having us part of your show, and like anything, it's an opportunity to talk food, what I love doing all day, and I think there's been a lot of great guests, so just honored to be on it.
And true to form, you were running between all three La Casa locations today?
Two. I had some other business at the third I wanted to take care of, and it's just, that's just kind of part of life is whether I'm physically at all three, I'm dealing with all three traditionally, whether with vendor relationships in some way, and it's just been it's just part of day-to-day life.
Day-to-day business and busyness, both, I suppose.
For sure.
Perfect. And what is your official title, role, which I suppose you probably have many, many roles, hats, etc. But if you were to give yourself the official Tony Vacanti nameplate, what does it look like?
That's a good one. I consider myself someone just trying to make our business better every day. So I don't like using, I guess we're part of this generation now. We don't like these words boss, and we don't like these words general manager. But for the most part, my job is to make sure that we have product, to make sure that we are staffed, to make sure that our customers are taken care of. And anything in between that falls into my lap, we got to do. And, we are not a corporation. We are a family-run business with a lot of people that make it go. So I just kind of have to make sure that the wheels keep turning.
That's fantastic. And we were talking just before the show here. So La Casa about to celebrate 70 years here in Omaha.
Yeah, it's kind of crazy when you think about it. And, I think it's even more crazy when you think 70 years. My dad will turn 73 this year. And he's been involved in this business since day one. And it's kind of crazy when you I think about the business that way. I think about my father. I think about how much the business has grown. He's grown up with the business, and the business has really, been something that's been a part of his life. And just the opportunity that I have in this generation to continue that. But 70 is crazy. And I think my dad would say it's even crazier when you sit back and really think that's been the majority of his life.
Yeah, growing up chewing on pizza crust and probably making pizza at a very young age, I'm assuming. So
that's right, and doing all the stuff in between. So
that's fantastic. So 3 generations now, is that right?
I think my dad says 5, so it was my
5.
Yeah,
wow.
I mean, and I get confused by this generational stuff at times because
Sure.
my great grandfather and my grandmother were the ones who really started it, and then my grandmother's sister, so it'd be my great aunt, and then her children, along with my father, were the ones that were kind of in the last 40 years integral in building the business, and then myself, and then my father's cousins, one of their sons, Brandon, and so he's a little younger than me. I don't want to disclose my age, but
sure, that's fine.
But yeah, so it's been a progression, and we're lucky to still be around, and lucky that people still love coming and seeing us because there aren't that many of us anymore. That's 1953. You probably count on your hand how many restaurants in this town are still around since then.
Yeah, there are few, and they, some have closed as we're recording this recently in the grand scheme of things, and thankfully there are a few, open. Cassio's is still cranking away, Johnny's, and La Casa. So Orsi's, at 100 years. So
yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah. Okay, so maybe just a few names. So if you walk into the Leavenworth location, of course, there's awesome documentation, pictures and things on the walls, and you get to see the story of Joe and Patane. Am I saying
Patani?
Patani. Thank you. Oh, that sounds much more like Italian. And thank you, Patani. So one of those photos in there, I think, is like the crew, like day one or first week or something along those lines. So besides Joe Patani, put some other names to maybe a few of those founders we were just talking about.
I mean, that is some of the stuff that I even asked my dad, and I mean, I think at one point he mentioned someone in the Caniglia family had helped, but I mean, really, they were just friends of my grandfather's.
That's so
And
cool.
my dad probably would be a better person to frankly ask that question
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
because, and when I think about it, it's always been based on the family, and the family's been the one working it. But my grandfather, it kind of goes back to the Italian community back then.
Sure.
A lot of the restaurants, whether it be, once again, Casio's, Caniglia's,
Yeah.
Orsi's, these are all guys that, I mean, they talk all the time. They had family events that were, based in the same community.
Yeah.
They knew each other. Their vendors that they were ordering products from were all the same. So,
Yeah.
I mean, I think a lot of those families helped each other out back then. And I mean,
That's so cool.
it really was a community type thing. And most of these people, they're first or second generation, and, they were doing this as a survival thing.
Sure.
And
Yeah.
now everyone wants to get in the restaurant business because, oh man, it's cool. And, I want to, I have a good idea. But, for most people, whether they were educated or not, they fell back on what was familiar to them and a way to make a living.
Yeah.
And so that community, that's why we had so many great and still have so many great restaurants that have an Italian or Sicilian heritage.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And thankfully, being here for a very long time, and La Casa has obviously grown. So there's La Casa West over on 84th Street, and now La Casa really west, farther there. So it's been cool to see you guys grow. So how has that happened? And where did you kind of come into the mix, or how long have you been involved within the La Casa ethos besides, eating the pizza, of course?
Yeah, I mean, La Casa West, which now is a misnomer because, back in the day, this is 1965 that it
Right.
opened. And we have a picture that kind of at our Pacific Springs location, which was on 168th off of Pacific.
Yeah.
There's a picture of La Casa West on 84th and Grover, and to the west, I mean,
Just nothing.
there's nothing, right? And so, over time, and it gets a little confusing for people now because forever it was La Casa West, and then
Right.
people look it up online and they're like, well,
Wait
I'm
a
calling La Casa
minute.
West. I'm thinking it's, so there is some confusion around it, but, that was in 1965, and my great grandfather, from my understanding, just wanted to potentially have another location.
Sure.
They were looking to expand it. And, I think at one point, based on what my father has told me, is that the idea was maybe they were going to have a few more locations.
Yeah.
And we had one actually in Venice, Nebraska.
That's right.
As
Yeah.
well.
Yeah.
So, I mean, we actually had one for a very short period of time in Council Bluffs as well
Now
at one
that
point.
I did not know. Okay.
Yeah, and these are, very small periods of time, but Pacific Springs location really came about the fact that I think a lot of we had considered expanding over the years.
Sure.
And I was transitioning from the Bay Area. I lived in San Francisco for a long time and ran a financial company. And my wife wanted to relocate, and we had little girls. So
Yeah.
she asked me at the time if I could do anything. What would I do? And I said, probably open a pizzeria. So I pressured my dad for several years to do that. And, we came up with the idea of doing it. And it was just a bit of a process. And it happened a lot quicker when I came back to Omaha than I thought it was going to happen.
Oh, wow.
And it was an opportunity, I think, for us to take the business into the next generation and really
Sure.
hopefully solidify our footprint within this city for the next 50 years,
Yeah.
because our Leavenworth location is great, and it's in a great location. Our 84th Street location is right off the interstate, which is good proximity for people heading, whether it's south or north or just
You bet.
any direction. But as Omaha tends to grow, it's always west.
Yeah.
We felt as though it would be a good opportunity for the business to grow and to bring our product out to a community that grew up with it,
Yeah.
and to people that may not have been as familiar with it. And it has been good for us. And I think it's been a very humbling experience. And
Yeah.
I think there's a lot of opportunity still.
I like the fact that you mentioned that picture, looking west from La Casa West, the 84th location, and seeing nothing. Because thinking about this, in the 50s, the Leavenworth location was pretty far west.
It
And
really
then in the
was.
60s, late 60s, then you've got La Casa West on 84th there at the edge. And now, I mean, okay, granted, Omaha definitely goes even farther, but you're still getting towards the west side. So La Casa has really grown with Omaha over these 70 years or so.
Yeah, and it's kind of crazy because when you look at it, how it's grown. So you got 45th Street, right? You double 45th, now you're basically the 90th. So we're 84th. You double
Right.
84th, you're on 168th.
Look
So
at that.
yeah, I mean, we like simple math, so we just tend. So the next time, I guess that we're gonna go ahead and have another location, we're gonna be really far out
Do you
there.
need to reopen the Venice location? Is that what maybe happens there? I don't know.
Wouldn't that be fun?
Yeah.
That's a crazy idea, and who knows? Who knows where it'll take us?
If it's there, I'll be there for the ribbon cutting with a slice of pizza in hand, preferably a corner off of that pizza because that's my favorite slice off of
Mine
there.
too. Mine too.
That's perfect. This is so cool. So, and you and I, our first encounter actually was over pizza, but not even La Casa pizza at that time. We had a Goodaruni or Coodaruni tasting, depending on who you talk to, of varying double crust pies throughout the city. So it was really cool to dine with you and sample some of the things around Omaha. So that was a fun deal.
It was, and that's one of my favorite pizzas. And I didn't bring La Casa to our engagement that evening. I mean, we had some great people with us. We had Stacy Winters.
Yeah.
We had Nat
Yeah,
Agura.
Yum Omaha. Yeah.
Yum Omaha. We had yourself. So I mean, it was a fun get together with the people that are putting the food scene on the map. And
Yeah.
I'm not the guy who likes to bring my own mixtape or anything like that to a party, so I'm not going to bring my own pizza. And you know what? Frankly, it was an opportunity for me to try a lot of the product that's been in the city that I hadn't, and it was just fun to get together.
Yeah.
And I don't think that Nat or Stacy had that product, and you may have, but I think it's a great tradition in Omaha that I don't think a lot of people know of
Yeah.
a great product. And I think I'm biased, but I do think
Sure.
ours is the best.
Well, of course, as you should. And actually, what's kind of interesting is so we had Los Solomillos, which is no longer available
Right.
because they are closed, and we had Big Fred's,
Yep.
which I had not had before, so that was a new experience for me. And we had an Orsi's.
We had Orsi's, yeah.
Yeah, and I don't think I had Orsi's up until that point either. So I was only familiar with one of those pies, so that was very cool.
Yeah,
So
it was fun. And I probably ate pizza at more places than La Casa growing up because it was just my dad worked a lot,
Yeah.
and I think by the time we decided to go out, and if we were going to get pizza, we're not going to La Casa.
Yeah.
So Big Fred's was somewhere I would go on occasion. Orsi's is just kind of I grew up on their bread.
Oh,
even
sure.
not just pieces, but loaves at a time.
You bet.
And
Good
so
sandwich.
it was just fun to revisit some of those things too that are very nostalgic to me.
I think that's funny though that it's like, oh man, we've spent all day at work, and what should we do? Oh, let's go out for pizza. Like,
Well, it's funny, even in we talk about this in the kitchen all the times at all our locations, because if you work in La Casa, you probably eat pizza probably 3 or 4 days a week.
Yeah.
And people always say, "Are you tired of it?" No, I'm really not. And it's the same thing. I think pizza is pretty much one of those things. Even when my dad got off work and was tired, every once in a while we go get a pizza still.
sure. Well, and you can change your crust, your toppings, your sauce, and that's the neat part about all especially our local spots.
Yeah.
You go from an Orsi's to a La Casa to a Big Fred's, wherever. Everything is completely different. Sure,
Yep.
it's probably tomato sauce, a crust, and cheese, but those three things are widely different between where you go.
It's crazy. And I mean, you think about the scene in Omaha, then you think about the scene in the Midwest, then you take that even further out nationally. And,
Yeah.
everyone loves to argue like our pizza's the best wherever you're from. But it really comes down to, I think pizza is so regional. Like,
Oh yeah.
and Omaha, like, I think Stacy said it the other day. I was reading one of the things he put on one of his posts for Omaha food lovers. He's like trying to figure out what you call Omaha's pizza. It's
Sure.
like that thin crust that's not maybe crispy, but then has like a lot of toppings and then like melted, like some solid melted cheese on top there.
Right.
And I think a lot of people are used to that style, but we have a lot of different styles in town, which gives everyone an opportunity to try different things and have
Yeah.
what they like.
Yeah, absolutely. And speaking of La Casa style, so if I recall, and you can correct me here, especially on pronunciation, because I would ask your forgiveness, but I believe on the box it says Vera Pizza Neapolitana
Right.
or something along those lines,
Yep.
right? So if you were to describe a La Casa crust, because if I was going to get a Neapolitan style pizza, say like a Dante,
Sure.
that's a widely different pizza than I might get a La Casa. So how would you describe the crust?
Our crust is going to be different than what you would say the quintessential Neapolitan style, or what people think in their mind. But Neapolitan style really is a thinner style crush with a fresh crushed tomato sauce,
Yeah.
and typically a mozzarella cheese. And we take our own spin on that with Romano.
Romano,
And we,
sure.
we do have a great mozzarella too, but I mean Romano's kind of what we've been known for. And there really isn't a categorization that I would call our pizza. I would call it has a little snap to it.
Yeah.
It's a little crisp. It's not crackery by any means.
No.
But it's crispy. I always tell people you gotta try it to understand what it is.
Right.
And I think sometimes it's funny when people first try our pizza, especially in Omaha, they're assuming it's going to be, this thing that they're used to, right? Everyone has this familiarity. Pizza is X, Y, or Z to me because that's what I grew up eating, or that's
Sure.
what is in my neighborhood. And I always tell people that, our pizza is just different. And I always tell people, if you're into fresh ingredients, if you're into really high quality cheese and tomatoes, if you, consider yourself a foodie and
Yeah.
someone that appreciates the quality and the craftsmanship, because everything we do, we break down by hand and we make in house, right? And so it's not to say other pizzerias don't do some of that, but a lot of places buy their product and assemble it, right? They buy processed cheese, they buy stuff that's just already sliced up or frozen or bagged. Where we're doing it similar to day one, where
Yeah.
we're cutting our vegetables, we're doing all those things, and I always tell people it's just a unique experience. And if you're open to food and you're open to high quality food, you're gonna like it. But if you think it's gonna be similar to some of the other Omaha styles, or you think it's gonna be like a Godfather's or Domino's, that's not what it's gonna be.
There's something to somebody coined this. I can't remember the author, but it's the pancake principle, and it's basically like pancakes anywhere you go out are never going to be as good as grandma's pancakes because you've got food memory and things tied to there as well. And that same person was like, well, that's why I don't make pancakes like I think grandma made pancakes. I make my pancakes. So La Casa makes its pizza, and there isn't another pizza like it. And I think I was just alluding to, I love the corner pieces because I get more crust.
For sure.
And it's got nice layers within the crust, especially on those corners, and it's not super doughy, but you get a little crisp on the outside, but then you usually get a nice little soft interior too. And the cornicione, I believe it is called, right? The pizza crust, or pizza grip, as we like to call it on Saturday. And so, yeah, it's got its own thing where the base layer is very thin, but still has a very gentle chew or flakiness. It is not a cracker thin crust, and it has a good flavor to it. Like you could just probably eat the crust with sauce and be good and happy.
You definitely could. And you bring that up because, like, where you said you have these layers, and that's to get back to how would you categorize it? I mean, I think it has those qualities of I don't want to call it a pastry style, but I mean it has these layers and air pockets that sit within the crust, that when you're cooking it at a high temperature, you get this separation, but you get that suppleness that's close to the tomato sauce, and you get like the crispiness, but then you get the tenderness, and then the crust in itself, like you said, will be a little more crispy on the outside, but then there's a soft little layer on the inside. And I eat pizza everywhere. And I mean, whether that's domestically in the U.S. or, traveling internationally, I try everything. I've never tried anything that's exactly like our product.
That's why I like it.
And that's why I like it too. I think we're not copying anyone. We're not trying to be, someone from a different city, or, we're not trying to be someone from a different country. We just do it our way. And we've done it that way since day one. And it's kind of cool because customers always say to us, they've moved away and they're like, there's nothing else like that. And that's probably one of the best compliments you can get, is that you're not trying to be something else.
Yeah, it's a destination thing. And so I have a relative that moved out to the West Coast. And whenever he comes back, it's got to be La Casa Pizza. And then he also has to stop at Taco John's and runs it just because, because it's not available. And that's the stop. So, it's that flavor that you can only get here at La Casa
for sure.
Case, so.
And I mean, that kind of goes back to even go deeper in the style of pizza. I mean, and it's funny, being at our Pacific Springs location more often, there are a lot of people in West Omaha that have moved to Omaha.
Yeah.
And we're seeing a lot of new customers that are not just in Omaha, but they've just moved from somewhere else, now reside in Omaha. And the first thing I always say to them, they always say, what is your favorite topping? Or what do people really like here? And I always tell people, like, you got to remember, we're in the Midwest. We're in Nebraska. We're in beef country. And it goes back to, once again, Italians, when they cook, and why my grandfather and my grandmother used what they used, was that what was available to local.
Sure.
And so that's why, we have the hamburger pizza. and the ground hamburger on top of the pizza. And I always tell people, I was like, you're in Nebraska, people love it. And I really do enjoy our hamburger pizza.
Yeah.
But, we have a ton of different stuff that you can offer on a pizza, but people, being that they're not from here, they always give it a try. And, 9 times out of 10, they love it. And some people, it's the ground hamburger's not for them. So we do some other things, like our margarita is great. But, it kind of goes back to the fact that that's a really unique thing in Nebraska.
Sure.
And we do it very different than anyone else.
You do. You coat that pizza. You get a full load of hamburger on there and prime beef, if I'm not mistaken, on
prime
there.
beef. And I mean, we will use high quality beef.
Yeah.
I mean, and there's a lot of operations out there. And we could get deep into toppings on pizzas and what type of toppings certain places put on their pizza.
Yeah.
And it goes back to, once again, we're going to put a very high quality product because that is once again, the essence of Italian cooking. It's like you take a very good product, you do very little to it.
Sure.
You add it to other very good products and you let them work together. And that's one thing my dad always says. It's not just the hamburger, it's not just the sauce, it's not just the cheese, it's not just the crust, it's how they all work together.
Absolutely.
That give you that style or that flavor or that texture that we're known for.
I'm probably one of those controversial folks when I introduce people to La Casa, because the hamburger pizza is definitely a very unique item, and some people aren't quite ready for that.
They're not
yet.
ready at times, right?
My thing is, maybe it's just get 2 pizzas. Try
Sure.
the hamburger. But if somebody knows their Romano, cool. Let them loose on the Romano because it's a pretty strong cheese. It's delicious. But, somebody might need to start with just a pepperoni with mozzarella,
Right.
or the ever popular pepperoni with both cheeses, which
Right.
is just a great combo. So there's lots of good options. And I think some people, if they're not ready for that, sometimes they may have tried that and they're like, I don't know about this thing. Well, okay, try a different pizza or try the double crust or those things. There's a lot of options.
Yeah. I think people do, when they come and maybe try it their first time, their friends are always like, you're going to love it, right? Or they send them in and they may have set them up for a bit of a surprise because they don't talk about the Romano.
Right.
And I think we love the Romano so much and we're so accustomed and used to it. And I think the other is we know how the quality of the cheese that we're getting on there. I mean, we buy these in wheels, we break them down by hand. So we're very proud of the fact that we're using an incredibly high quality product to put on our pizza. But I do think sometimes people are a little caught off guard. And, I think we've had a lot of people, they'll try the Romano and they like it, but, they find their comfort zone maybe with the mozzarella. But more often than not, they'll take the Romano that we grate in-house and they'll add it on top of the pizza.
That is a pro move because you can just get one of the little 2-ounce ramekins there or whatever of Romano and Romano to your liking. And it's a very creamy Romano, but a pronounced flavor, which is just awesome. And there's nothing like it. It's really good.
There's not, and when we get the Romano in the wheels, it's similar to a Parmesan Reggiano where it's a very hard wheel, and then when you're breaking it down, and even the Romano is very, very similar in that profile. But the way we grate it and some of the things we do to it to texturize it, to give it that softness, that creaminess that allows it to melt on the pizza, it changes the flavor profile. So if I was to cut you a slice off the wheel and I'd say, hey, try this, Dave, and then I would give you some of the cheese just that we've texturized, or I'd give you some that we've cooked, and you try them all 3 next to each other. They all have a different flavor profile, the way it hits your tongue and just some of the things that it does. And the way we grate it and the texture we give it really gives it that, I think, puts it over the edge.
I'm glad we got into ingredients because I wanted, when you and I were talking way back at Bull Moose, and you had mentioned something to me that I was just kind of floored by, which is that a lot of your suppliers, or some of them anyway, are the same suppliers that you've had since day one, since the 1950s. So what ingredients or ingredient do you have that's still like, hey, we're still buying this from, Joe XYZ supplier or farm or whatever since the 50s?
Yeah, I think our Romano is kind of that thing you think of most of the time, and we've used the same cheese for decades.
Yeah.
And the unfortunate nature in the food industry is that the mom and pop, or the small companies that used to produce these products, they were typically family operations, usually Italian family operations that came over. It was a craft.
Yeah.
And they were putting these products together. You look over the last 70 years we've been in business, that has all changed. I mean, it was Stella, now Stella Saputo, and some of the other products that we use have gone through 4 or 5 different name changes, and now they're all owned by large corporations to a large extent.
Okay.
My dad tells a story of we had a new rep, a new food rep, and he asked him, you need to get this specific cheese in if you want to work with La Casa. And they've been using this cheese for years. And they told him how much Romano cheese we use. And the guy's like, nobody uses that much Romano
Like,
cheese.
we do.
Yeah.
Wait till we open another location.
Right. And so, I think through that process, the salesman was like, well, I have this Romano or whatever. It's like, no, that's not what we use. And, so we've always been very dedicated to the product that allows us to have that
consistency.
The consistency. So, we've been using that cheese since day one, and it's the biggest differentiator. And then we use, a great whole tomato that we actually get the tomatoes in, and we process them and we make our own sauce. A lot of places will get like a diced product, or they'll get a puree, or they'll get something. We use whole tomatoes. We like to crush our tomatoes in house.
Nice.
We like to control the texture of that. We like to, and once again, we get a very high quality tomato.
Sure.
And we don't do a lot to it.
Yeah.
Where a lot of places, I think, oregano is one of these, I think, flavors or spices that people use, and basil in it. And when you taste pizza sauces, especially I think, locally here, there's a lot of oregano, there's a lot of basil that's in that sauce.
Mm-hmm.
And, it's just kind of hiding the fact that the tomato's not maybe the showcase or the greatest quality. It's not that it's bad.
Mm-hmm.
It's just, it's not a fresh crushed product. And so we really want that tomato flavor, and we want that, like, it's almost the brightness or the punch that you get from that tomato sauce that helps offset the Romano cheese, which is sharp and salty. So you get that, that balance.
Right.
Where I think, for most sauces, they're more of a paste, and it is what it is. We just choose to do it differently.
Gotcha. So the tomatoes are whole tomatoes. You guys are crushing them in-house and making your sauce, and the cheese comes on a wheel. It's not shredded, so you're getting fresh stuff and things like that. So any details that you would like to give, and feel free to say no, about dough hydration, type of flour, or if there's any fat in the crust of a La Casa pizza, like an olive oil or anything like that. I'm just nosy, and you can decline and just say we make a good pizza.
It has flour. It has moisture, so it does have hydration.
That's good.
Yeah.
It's like we're not telling you the percentage.
Yeah. And all doughs have some form of fat, whether that's going to be an oil, whether that's going to be, people use different things all over the globe.
Sure.
Our dough is going to be very unique in that scenario. And some of the things we do after we make it, some of the aging process that we go through. I mean, we'll talk about this in the restaurant all the time. It's like, I like our dough X days out. I like our dough.
Changes the flavor. You bet.
It changes flavor, it changes texture a little.
Yeah.
And there's not a lot more to tell you about that one.
That's really fair and well said. I've been recently reading a book by Ken Forkish, Elements of Pizza.
Yeah, that book is great. I think there's a lot of talented bakers out there, and I think if a baker is the best person to go to make pizza, because they understand there's a lot of science.
It is 100% science. Ratios of those ingredients, or the DOP Neapolitan style pizza is a very specific ratio between your flour, your yeast, your water, your salt, and if you don't do that, it's not this. And
those are the Italians right there. They're going to tell you got to follow this line, and then you're going to pay me to get that actual certification. And
right,
yeah, but yeah, I mean, and and that's the thing I don't think people understand too. It's like a small change in hydration, a small change in whether it's fat content, a small change in just even the style of flour, how fine it is. When we opened our Pacific Springs store, we sold a lot of 00 flour. We had it on our shelves, and people would come and get it. And I would see all these people coming in wanting to make pizza. And, I commend them. Making pizza at home is fun. It's a great way to do things. But
you bet.
00 is a really hard flour to work with for a novice. And I would say, because it's so fine, and your hydration content that you traditionally would have with that's going to be pretty wet.
Yeah.
To get the crispness that you're going to want. And then you need a high heat oven to do it.
Yeah.
There's a lot that goes into dough and the style of dough you want to do. And
absolutely.
But that's, once again, the fun thing about pizza.
Yeah. What I like about pizza too is that, if somebody's trying it or different locations or whatever, it's really hard to make a bad, just horrible, inedible pizza.
I agree.
And then it is also similarly hard to make an amazing pinnacle of pizza. And that takes a lot of work. And then to do so at scale, consistently since since the 50s.
Yeah.
To keep that going. And then, of course, humidity in the air and how that changes things.
It
And,
definitely does.
you mentioned oven temperature. If I bake a pizza at home, I may need to change the water content because it's probably going to be in the oven longer
Right.
than it would be at a pizzeria that is running like a 900 or 700 degree oven where it's just done.
100%. People always tell me, "Oh, I try to make your pizza at home," and it's like, well, yeah, that's a good goal, but it's it's really hard to make. I think a
Yeah.
really good pizza in a conventional oven.
Sure.
It's not that you can't do it, and I mean you can make great bread in an oven at home, but
Yeah.
I mean there are certain limitations you have with heat, and just like you said, the duration is going to skew things.
Yeah, you're not cooking a pizza in 90 seconds in a home oven. It's just not happening.
Well,
So,
disclaimer here, if you do break off the cleaning mechanism on your oven, which I have done, because you can get extremely high heat, you can make some pretty good pizzas in your home oven. I do not recommend
Don't
that.
try this at home.
Yeah.
Go see Tony at La Casa.
Yeah.
He'll help you out. And being part of the family and growing up there, did you work in the kitchen growing up?
No, the interesting thing about it is my first day working at La Casa was October 1st of 2015.
Oh wow, an auspicious day.
Yeah, I know. So I did not grow up working in the restaurant, and most of it was because, I think my father, for his whole life, whether he wanted to or not, was attached to the restaurant, and, it was something he did, and
Sure.
him and my mother always wanted me to go do something else and get a different job. And I think they wanted me to work for other people and understand the difference between, working in a family business and, working for other people and have that skill set.
Yeah.
And so I did not until that day. And I still do the same things I did on day one, which is bussing tables and prepping food. And I appreciate every aspect of the business. And
You bet.
you can't run a business, let alone a restaurant, without understanding the most basic work to the more, I guess, complex work that you would do.
Yeah.
So it's been a process, but I mean, that's the reason why I think we're successful over time, is that you have to understand what you're doing. You have to understand working with our customers, working with our purveyors,
Yeah.
working on a line. And I still work on a line. I mean, I do everything at the restaurant that any of our other managers do, because I enjoy the work and I want our business to be the best it can be, and I want to be hands-on and understand it.
Well, and being that close to the folks that are on the line, to the folks that are bussing tables, if you need to help make things better and have a good, motivated employee that wants to stick with you for a long time, and that is helping you produce a quality product, I don't know if there's a better way than being right close to those folks and seeing what's going on, or maybe asking, hey, is there anything that we could change or do or improve or whatever? Good dialogue can happen that way, I think.
For sure. And, the interesting part is, like, the people I work with are some of my best friends
Yeah.
now. And we have a very close relationship. All of our managers do. And we run a pretty small operation. As much as it is, you're working with a team. It's like, these people are my friends. These people I'm close to them as I am my family. And,
Yeah.
we as a group, and this business couldn't continue in our family without, Eric Lang, who's been with us for, 40 years, Rob Kading, who's been with us for, over 40 years, Greg Stoy, who's been with us for 30 years, Joey Sampanero, who's worked with us now for close to 20 years. We have a group of people that have given a lot. They've committed their life to helping us run this business. And, more than the pizza, that's probably the most amazing part about 50 years or 70 years, excuse me,
Yeah.
is that you have people, including my father, that span decades, that have helped us continue to stay in business, and without our family. And then Mike Larson, I'm naming names. Mike's been with us almost 25 years. So
Joel's usually over on the 84th Street location.
Joel
correct?
is going to be Joel retired. Joel was down at Leavenworth.
Yeah. Okay.
So, and
okay.
then, yeah, but all these people, I mean, you think about it, that's what makes this business what it is.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, yeah. So you guys, when somebody does come in from out of town and they haven't had that pizza for a long time, that they still get that pizza that they remember.
And they still see the people they literally see the same people. And I mean, it's incredible.
Yeah, walking to Leavenworth. Hi, Victor. How's it going?
Right. Exactly. Victor, Danielle. I
Yeah.
mean, all of the family, and then all the people that have, committed so many years to the product. But I think it's not only just the pizza, but it's to our customers, and to, they feel a sense of pride in allowing this place to continue in Omaha.
Yeah. Well, a lot of times on this show, I ask about food memories and significant, events in your life surrounding food. But I'm going to flip it a little bit just to say, and I think I told you this when we were at Bull Moose, but talking to you, because I haven't really got a chance to talk to the Vacanti family directly here, and I think I almost got a tear in my eye. And it may happen again right now, but I don't know. But the thing is, my family is from Omaha, long time, been here very, very long time. And, Sunday night dinner often was La Casa. And typically it's a pepperoni mushroom. That's the family's favorite. The onion rings are, my gosh, to die for. La Casa has been a part of my life as long as I can remember. And that flavor, that food memory, and getting a slice of that is good. And from me directly to you and the family and everybody at La Casa that produces that pizza, an honest thank you from the Dave Zorko family and associates, because I appreciate you guys. I really do.
Well, we appreciate that too, Dave. And I think, you speak for a very large group of people in Omaha that their families have been coming and seeing us for years. And 2-3 times a day, I see customers and, they'll tell me how much they love our product and how long they've been coming and seeing us. And I'll just tell them, I was like, we would not be able to do this without you coming and seeing us. So don't thank me. Thank you for supporting us. And thank you for, having this at your birthday parties, at your graduations, at your, we do a lot of wedding receptions. And then, there is
best reception ever.
Yeah. And then, there are, the things that aren't easy in life. When people pass away, these are often meals that we serve. And, we're honored to be a part of all those life events, because I think, what I serve at my family events, it's important. Food is, it's a common thread.
You bet.
It's just not a piece of pizza. It's just not pasta. It's, it's memories. It's your family. It's, just everything that goes along with it. So, thank you to your family and everyone else similar to your family that comes and sees us, because we're only going to make it another 70 years if people continue to appreciate the product and try the product and, understand that we're going to be a little different than some of the other places, and, hopefully gain an appreciation for a scratch kitchen that's been doing it this way for so long.
That's awesome. And that's what I really enjoy about talking about, the ingredients and things that are going there, is to kind of let people know too that the things that you are doing from scratch, and that, this has been done the La Casa way for, X number of years. And it's just, it's awesome. And the passion that goes in there.
I mean, today, for instance, I was leaving to come here. We made a hamburger today. So we stew our hamburger over a course of hours. We made our meat sauce. We made meatballs today. We made onion rings. Now, to make onion rings, you have to slice, bags of onions and cut these things. And so we actually broke down cheese today. So we had a couple wheels come in. So we're cutting cheese. So, I mean, every day there's a production process going on. And we have a really strict production schedule that allows us to do this, because without that coordination and without that structure, I always tell customers it's no more than probably 48 hours that we're making this product and we're turning it over, because we're fortunate enough to sell a lot of food.
Sure.
That allows us to have almost zero waste out of our kitchen ever.
That's
because
awesome.
We're using every product and turning it over. But I mean, it truly is, to run a scratch kitchen at the volume of food we do, it's a labor.
Yeah, it's a lot of work. So does prep for the next day or whatever happen during the day? Do you guys, is everybody getting early before the restaurant opens, or, kind of how does that structure go?
We typically start right around 8 o'clock, maybe a little before.
Yeah.
And we get prepping. I mean, immediately when we walk in, we have large kettles that we cook our sauce in and our hamburger. Those go on immediately. Our dough rollers, usually you'll hear this, droning sound in the background of the dough roller going constantly.
Yeah.
And then you're breaking down fresh product, whether that's, our tomatoes, whether it's, the lettuce we're getting in. We're cooking pasta. So, I mean, it all starts. And that's the interesting part about where we're at today in the business. I'll say with prep is that you have to get smarter, or you have to get more resourceful and have a much tighter production schedule, because the cost of labor, the cost of goods,
finding people,
luckily, fortunately enough, we've been blessed in that. But awesome. We work at it. We really do. And I think people know about who we are in this industry. And if they're looking for a stable job with a good environment and people that know what they're doing, people come find us. So we're very blessed.
Yeah.
So if anyone's listening to this ever and they need a job,
come see
you come see us. We have a pretty strict production schedule, and we're getting better at it over time.
Sure.
And getting more with less.
Yeah.
Or I think a lot of people that in this industry, and this is very tough to see, is that a lot of people decide, I'm going to stop producing this in-house. I'm going to now go to a fabricated product, and I'm just, going to put that on my menu. And it's, although tempting, because it's probably cheaper and you don't need these people, as many people to, produce it.
It's not the same.
It changes the dynamic of everything, right? I mean, whether you believe it or not, when someone's putting their hands on a product, they're creating it. I mean, there is a dedicated person. There's some love going into that translates into, it's being cared for in a certain way from start to finish, where you're not going to get that if you open up a bag and you dump it in a boiling pot of water and then you serve it to someone. And there are a lot of restaurants that do that, and they're highly successful at, bringing people in. But
well, you pulled a thread right out of my head there, which was, cooking with love. You can taste the care. It happens, and like you said, well, and especially if you're getting those quality products that you've been, wanting to be consistent with, and you're spending the time to get the quality products, then you treat it with respect and treat it with quality, and the end result of the sum being greater than its parts there is quality as well. So that's a very cool thing to focus in on.
Yeah, I think so. And I think it's something that when we're creating the product and doing that, we really are aware of that, because every day you have a new salesman coming to your door saying, I can cut your cost, or I can do this. And
sure,
so many places have had to make the tough decision to do that, because it's either keep my doors open,
right,
or I can't hire someone, so I have to go to a different style product. And you just figure it out every day.
The Pacific Springs location, any challenges that you encountered when trying to get that off the ground? Because that was a big leap, because the other two locations had been there for a very, very long time before you launched Pacific Springs.
Yeah, I mean, I think anytime you build a building and you build a restaurant, there's a lot of challenges, and not just day one.
Find ovens and hoods and contractors.
Exactly. And that is a world that,
oh man,
I'm not going to even dive into that, because, but I think opening that restaurant and going through that process, some of the surprises were, we were so busy that first year, and how difficult it was to produce so much food. And then we got hit by the pandemic 1 year from the day of opening.
Yeah.
And people are always like, well, that was a bad time to do that. It's like, that's not a
there's
bad
never,
time.
Yeah.
And it wasn't bad.
When's the right time?
It just was what it was.
Yeah.
And I feel like I don't know, maybe I'm confident, but I feel like I'm equipped, and our team's equipped to deal with these things. And we did great things in 4 years, because we'll have our 4-year anniversary February 26th.
Oh,
Yeah. So there are a lot of things that came up, but I think there are things that make you become more intelligent about your business.
Sure.
Understand your industry better, and appreciate what you have.
Yeah.
And so I think Pacific Springs is kind of this nuanced place where, we have a lot of we have the same menu as our West store on 84th. It's not full service, but we run food out to table. So we had to get a hybrid model where we don't have servers, but we run all the food, and we try to create a very intimate experience, outside of having someone at your table every 10 minutes.
Right.
But I think that was a very big learning curve of how do you evolve in an industry where you're struggling to find people if you had servers, you're struggling to find people in a kitchen, you're navigating the pandemic, and what does the modern restaurant look like? And I think we've done a really good job of that, of bridging that gap.
Absolutely. And it's interesting, from La Casa on Leavenworth to 84th Street, even the fact that you didn't copy paste Leavenworth, because it's more of a quick casual than a wait staff oriented model. During the pandemic, well, first of all, on Leavenworth, of course, you used to have the kind of ramp walk in takeout. So it's like takeout was separate than dining.
Right.
And then during the pandemic, you guys went ahead and spun up curbside like so many restaurants, and you guys just did that. It's like, hey, we're going to have some parking spots, and call us up and we'll bring your pizza out to you. So,
it's been an evolution. And I think, Pacific Springs has been fun, and we have great outdoor space. We have a great party room. We do a bocce league out there, which we have a great grass space to play it on.
That's
and
so
it's
cool.
Really popular. So it's really nice to see a business like ours that started out of a house.
Yeah.
Our on 45th has kind of been.
You can still see it if you look careful.
You can.
Yeah.
And it's been kind of added on to over the years, and then you have our Westgate or West location at 84th, and then you have the Pacific Springs location, because they all have something different.
Yeah.
And a lot of people always say, I like this location. Oh, I like this location. And the good news is they're all there.
Yeah.
Go to whatever one you
Pick
like.
whichever one you want.
When you're in, this part of town, come see us there, come see us here. So
Yeah.
we just want you to enjoy the food and keep coming and seeing us.
I will always remember as a kid, we'd go pick up sometimes our pizza from La Casa West. And right on the side of the kitchen, there's the best air vent in the history of ever, because you'd pull in.
Oh yeah,
the
kicks it
delicious
out.
pizza smell would come right out there. It's like warm and delicious. It's like, oh, that's kind of nice there. So
Yeah, no,
That's always fun.
it definitely is. And even, at all of our locations, we have some neighbors across the way from the Pacific Spring store. They'll tell us, like, during the summer, they'll show up quite often, and there's a handful of them, and they're like, listen, the wind was blowing this direction. We were going to grill, we were going to do this, but we got
Coming
that
in for
smell.
pizza.
We're coming in for pizza. So that is kind of a strategic design, that we get that scent into the air and lure people in.
I am aware that there are stores out there that have been known to pipe that smell, but of a product out there. But
For sure.
But how can you go wrong with baking bread or pizza or any of these things, or a grilling burger? Come on, it's delicious. So it gives you a little preview of what
right.
you're about to get. So
It's part of the
that's good.
experience. I always tell
Yes.
people, from the moment and this is what we talk about with our team, it's like from the moment you pull into that parking lot, there's an experience happening, and
True.
you need to be understanding that most of the time people are pretty excited to come here because they've been doing it for years, or people are excited about pizza even if they don't know our product.
You bet.
I'm excited about pizza. And it starts from pulling into that parking lot to, when they walk out the door. And one of the biggest things that I think we do really well is when someone walks in the door, we always say hello. We always say, thanks for coming in. And then on their way, I always say, thank you. We'll raise our hands. We'll yell from the back of the kitchen, even if people can't see us, and say, thank you for coming in, because we really mean it and we really appreciate it.
Absolutely. So we've talked a lot of pizza. What is one of your favorite things on the menu that isn't pizza? And can't use onion rings, because we already talked about that, and they're really good.
So, do we consider Curry pizza? So yeah, probably.
I think it's still a pizza.
Okay. So,
But an unsung hero possibly of the menu is the double crust.
I would
So
agree.
That's fair. Okay.
I think there are two things that I would highlight. I think our meat sauce, or people would say bolognese. Depending on who it is,
Yeah.
everyone likes to call it's a meat sauce. That's what my grandma, my great grandfather, my dad calls it. It's a meat sauce.
Yeah.
Just the smell of it, like when we cook it in the morning, it's just like, that's very nostalgic to me. And I think it's one of the best meat sauces in the city, if not regionally. And there's a lot of depth of flavor.
Sure.
There's the same beef that we put in our pizzas that we stew down and add to it. Once again, we're using very high quality products. So you're getting something that has been made by hand, and we make it throughout the week. Nothing's been frozen. Nothing comes out of a bag or anything like that.
Yeah.
And so I like the aspect of making it, right?
Sure.
And so I think that's why I appreciate it too, is that I just love that sauce. And then two, sauce goes on pasta. So
That it does.
I love our lasagnas, and I think, we use this mini Malfalda noodle, and it looks like a very tiny sheet of lasagna. We're talking, it's like 1.5 inches or 2 inches by, a centimeter.
Yeah.
And so I always tell, it's like a mini lasagna noodle that then we create a sheet of a mini lasagna noodle, and then we layer that. And, we use that meat sauce. We use, the hamburger. Otherwise we have a garlic cream sauce. You can add chicken to it. Otherwise, you just do plain marinara and cheese. And there's so many different combinations you can do. And lasagna, to me, it's just kind of a homey dish where
You bet.
you can just bake, and there's so much flavor and texture in it. And the crispiness on the outside, or the, when you're cooking the top of it, that you get.
Yeah.
That's kind of my go-to, both of those.
One of my favorites and family favorites is the toasted ravioli.
For sure.
That's just a good one. That was my grandmother's absolute favorite. So if we had La Casa, we better have some toasted ravs for her on the way.
And I'll tell you something that someone told me today. I was talking with one of our food reps, and they do a lot of business all over Omaha. And he told me today something that I don't think I fully understood or appreciated. We're probably the only place in Omaha that breads their own ravioli.
Oh,
And-
interesting.
And nowadays, everyone buys a prepackaged product that is breaded, and you take out of a bag and drop it in a fryer. And we are taking our raviolis, we're breading them throughout the week, and it takes a lot of time to do. And we make the actual breading, so we'll take some of our Romano and some of the other things we do, and we process it down, and we take breadcrumbs that we get from bread that's left over that we've aged, is just to get it to get
Oh, that's awesome.
hard. And so we create our own breadcrumbs. We will buy some because with the quantity we go through, but like literally everything that's coming out of that kitchen, we're making that product that goes into that ravioli that goes onto your plate, where this rep was telling me we're the only one he knows of. And, I found that kind of sad at times because I know how much work it takes us. And once again, it's kind of the sign of the times and that people have to make these decisions. And I'm proud that we make the decision to do it ourselves.
That's so cool. That's so cool. Super quick. Besides when you're not eating at La Casa, and we did touch on a couple other pizzerias, but are there any other spots around Omaha that you might recommend people stop when they're not getting pizza at La Casa?
I think if you enjoy a really unique aspect of take-on food, Okarant and Ben Maids,
Oh, yeah.
his team over there do incredible stuff. That's my go-to.
That's your pick?
That's my pick. And I mean,
I like it.
I love everything they do. The people that run it are great people. So I think that would be my go-to.
I like it. I still need to make it over there and try the tasting menu. I haven't done it yet,
Yeah, for
and
sure.
I'm excited to do so.
Yeah.
So that's very,
There's
very
a
cool.
lot of good food in Omaha
Oh,
too.
yeah.
Other than that, I love going to Orsi's getting their fresh bread. I know
You bet.
that's
That's taking you back there too, right?
yeah.
So,
I mean, that's the stuff. Like I'm pretty simple when it comes down to that stuff.
a fresh loaf of bread or a good loaf of bread, either by itself or with a little bit of butter or whatever you want to do with it, is just one of the simple pleasures in life. Really
Sure.
is. Really is. And I think that gets to one of the things about pizza. You have an excellent bread or crust and something nice like a fresh tomato sauce, maybe a little cheese, maybe a little veggies, whatever you want to do, and it's simple, delicious, and soul satisfying. So
It really is. That's the funny part about pizza, though, too. People forget really what it is in its very essence.
Yeah.
And it was a delivery mechanism for whatever product you had in your house.
Yeah.
And we make it this sexy thing, or we put it on this pedestal, or everyone talks about, no, this is the best. No, this is the best. It is what it is. It's like you said, it's bread, it's sauce, it's the toppings you like, and there's enough to go around.
That's
So
perfect.
You just got to
And
find what you like.
yeah, and best, I'd say best shared with others too. I think that's a
Hands
good thing.
down,
Yeah.
for sure. And that's that's the great thing about pizza. You're not going to share your burger. You're not sharing your taco, right?
Right.
It's not sharing ribs.
No.
But Pete, that's the fun, and that's a great part of working in the pizzeria is that when people are coming in, they're coming in with their family or their
Yeah.
friends, and it's like competitive ordering. They're like, no, I want this on the pizza, I want that on the pizza, and it's just fun to see and guiding them through that process, and then watching them enjoy themselves, and that makes everything worth it, man. All the work we put in the kitchen to see people enjoy that and share that. That's why we do it.
I love it. And if people want to find out what's happening with La Casa, if there's any, events, where's the best place to keep tabs on La Casa haps, as it were?
You can follow us on Facebook and Instagram and at all 3 locations. And then I think the best place to keep tabs on is come to the restaurant.
I like that.
There's something about like social media is good for what it's good for, but don't let other people make your decisions for you. Get out, go try something.
Yeah.
But come to the pizzeria. I mean, we do stuff for schools in the area. So if you're interested in doing things with us for school nights,
Neat.
ask people at the restaurant, talk to them, because that's the type of place we are.
You bet.
And sure, we do our social media stuff, but best place is come in, come see us. If you haven't seen us, ask us to walk you through the menu. We'll probably know you haven't seen us because the way you're looking at the front, and we do a pretty good job. But come see us. I think that's a good place to start.
I think any restaurant food, definitely pizza, the first time that you have it, eat it at the restaurant.
Yeah.
Because I can tell you, most pizzas are still going to be decent at home, but it's still best right at the restaurant, I think.
Yeah, customers remind me of that every day. They're like, we haven't been to the restaurant in about a month. We've had takeout a few times. They're like, dang, that is so good when it comes out of the oven. And it is.
Yeah.
Especially for texture. And just when you put anything in a box and it's hot, it's going to steam a little. So
That's true.
you eat it fresh, and that's going to be the best
Well,
experience.
if there's one thing I do know about La Casa Pizza takeout, though, is you better hold that box level.
Says it right on
Right
there.
on the box.
We see people walk out like it's a briefcase sometimes. I'm like,
Oh, no.
I'm like that.
Oh, that hurts. That hurts.
Yeah, that'll be a
have-
phone call in about 20 minutes.
all the cheese was on one side. I have actually wedged because of course car seats are kind of sloped a little bit.
Oh,
So
yeah.
if you bring grab maybe those extra receipts out of your wallet or whatever and prop up the back of the box so
Sure.
it's level.
Yeah, I often will carry pizzas out to the car, and for people, and I'm they're like, no, put it there. I'm like, absolutely not. And I want this to get home, and I want you to enjoy it. And so there's a little care that you have to take. It's like anything.
So the little table looking things that you see in some pizza boxes
Uh-huh.
to make sure that the lid is staying up.
Right.
What I feel that La Casa needs is a slight adjustable wedge that you can just put on the edge of your box to always keep it level.
They have those self-levelers for the tables in the restaurants. We'll put some self-levelers on there.
Pizza box. Premium La Casa service. Oh, this is fantastic. Well, Tony Vacanti of La Casa Pizza, thank you so much for coming to talk with me about pizza. It holds a special place in my heart. And if anybody needs any advice on ordering, obviously you can go inside the restaurant. If you need to email SaturdayOmaha@gmail.com or maybe message me on social, I'll help you too. It's fine. Tony, seriously, thank you so much for being here and talking with me tonight.
Dave, it was a pleasure. And obviously, thank you to you and your family
Awesome.
for all the years.
And with that, I am Dave Zorko. This is Saturday Omaha. And until we eat again, stay hungry. Bye-bye.
Our show is recorded and produced by Saturday Omaha. You can find us on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook, as well as email SaturdayOmaha@gmail.com. Thanks for listening, and stay hungry.
Saturday Omaha.
Eat this.